Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are reading Elantris chapters 42 through 48, wherein Hrathen, things are looking up for him. At least we start out with things looking up for him. Serene and Spirit get to know each other a little better. Hrathen converts a country just on the fly. And Serene gets back out of Elantris. She didn't spend terribly long in there, it seems like. At least in terms of chapters. And then we end with things not going Hrathen's way as much as he might have hoped. So I am Data, and with me is
Jack,
Jamie,
and it's Joe.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
So yeah, okay, before we get into it, I want to start out by letting everyone know Thanksgiving has sort of creeped up on us, the Americans among us at least, almost unexpectedly. And so we are going to have to take a couple of weeks off after this episode because we've got holiday type plans. And this came right on the back of our taking like 3 weeks off already. So we didn't have time to build up our catalog again before we had to take another break. So this is going to be the last episode for a couple weeks. Sorry, guys, just letting you know up front.
Yeah, now's the time to get all your friends into it. They've got a few weeks to catch up. So if your friends like aren't into the podcast, you'd be like, hey man, they're taking a few weeks off if you want to catch up. You know, there's only like almost 90 episodes or whatever. So shouldn't take them too long.
And my fingers are crossed that we're not going to end up doing more skipping around Christmas. I'm going to try to plan for it ahead of time, but we'll see what happens as we approach the second holiday that is coming up.
Sure. I'm just going to say we're not going to post any episodes at all. Sorry. It's just not going to happen.
Ever again.
Oh, yeah, we're never actually going to finish Elantris. We're almost at the end, but we're not going to finish it.
Yeah, we're like 76% of the way through.
More than that, I think we started 76% of the way through in this chapter. So
yeah. All right.
Oh no, 73% of the way through.
Because my stupid, sorry, this is unrelated to the podcast. My computer, it's connected via wire, but it keeps picking up the Wi-Fi and not using the wire.
Well, turn off your Wi-Fi receiver.
I guess that seems like a whole thing.
Oh, okay. So what did you guys think of these? Oh shit! How many chapters did we read? Seven. What did you guys think of these 7 chapters this time?
Yeah, they're pretty good. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just this book as a whole. It's like it's not quite as action packed as I sort of expected. At least not the bits we've read through, which is fine. Like it's not like no issue, but like I keep expecting like something a bit more murderous, I guess, to happen at some point.
Something more Mistborn-y. Yeah.
Yeah, and it could be just because I've still got the specter of Mistborn hanging over me a bit, and I'm trying to compare this book to it, which is not fair on this book. So like I'm not trying to have a go at the book. It's like wow, like this is just a bit more not subdued, but just a bit more subtle, I guess, going through. It was cool to see Hrathen and Dilaf are still just like all right, we're still differing, but Hrathen's got the upper hand. I thought Serene telling Reod about his father's dying was like, oh, that was a heavy one, and she has absolutely no clue like what she's just told him. This is where I'm starting to get on. I think we've all said at various points, it's like, why doesn't Reod just tell Serene who he is? And like, this is the point where I've just gone, okay, yeah, no, you really need to tell her, dude. Like, and Galadon's the same. He's sitting there just going, like, would you just rip the Band-Aid off and get on with it? So, yeah, I've held out as long as I can, but now it's like, okay, no, Reod, you need to get on with it now. Yeah, I thought the takeover of Teod was a bit sudden, but I totally followed the logic there, so that was cool. And I'm kind of stunned by Telri actually having a bit of spine, balls, audacity, I guess, to just talk down to Hrathen. So like, all right, cool. So I guess maybe Telri is going to be our final antagonist for the book. Oh no, probably not. He's like, I think I said last time, like someone from Dakor is going to come over, so maybe that's who Wern will send in response to Telri's summons. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of scattered a bit this week on these chapters, maybe because we got so various perspectives. Like 7 chapters is a lot, especially when they were so short. So, but yeah, on the whole, pretty good.
You're talking about how it's less violent. I started thinking, like, yeah, I guess if you're making a movie out of Mistborn, that's like a PG-13 at least, if not like an R for depending on how violent you get with the violence and stuff. And I was like, this movie might just be like a PG or something. And then I was thinking, well, there is the scene where the naked guy like cuts open the woman, and then they burn that one guy alive. So maybe not.
Well, the burning the dude alive, you could probably just have sort of, happen a bit off screen. You could probably get away with that. The naked assault with a knife over a bloody altar, it's like, yeah, you're not getting around that one.
Yeah, that's a little bit, that's a little much.
King Iodon comes with his own sensor box.
Just Iodon is always a censor bar. He's King Censor Bar in the whole movie. It'd be great.
Yeah, I again enjoyed these chapters. I sort of disagree a bit with Dak on the Reod not telling Serene who he is yet.
Ooh.
I think it needs to happen, but I kind of appreciated the explanation of he doesn't want her to have any obligation towards him, even though like they were both, as far as they were concerned at that time, were both Elantrians, particularly now that he knows she's not an Elantrian. I liked that. It's like she could make her own way. She doesn't have to feel attached to him. So I kind of respected that. I think he does need to tell her at some point, but I get why he hasn't done it yet. Yeah, so I thought that was okay. I'm glad that it was at least addressed as well, especially with Galadon being like, dude, just tell her. That kind of put my mind at ease on that one a bit. I really liked the ending with Telrig saying he's contacted Wern directly. I was like, oh man, Hrathen's going to be pissed. Also, Hrathen seems scared. So yeah, I didn't actually see that coming. Telrig's definitely got more going for him than we had realized, and maybe he's a bit smarter than what we realized, but I think he's going to be a particularly dangerous character moving forward. I didn't see Eventeo bowing to Hrathen so easily, but I understand why he did it. But I'm definitely enjoying the shorter chapters, more fast paced now. We're definitely coming into that Sanderlanche territory with things, some plot kind of wrapping up a little bit, getting some answers, things are starting to snowball a bit. So I'm really excited to keep going. But I really enjoyed this week's set of chapters as well. It was good to get like 7 chapters, even though they're short. I feel like we've consumed a lot of content this week. And it was a bit of fun. I did find myself when Serene is sitting over the books and she found the politics section, I was like, damn, we got to get Serene and Elend in a room. Just get these two to meet and, discuss some things over some thick books.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen that side of her necessarily before, where she's like, ooh, books.
She's just too busy.
Like the politics that she was so interested in. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Maybe it's a trend.
You do you. It's cool. Whatever you're into.
I mean, there's Elantrian magic here, which is probably way more interesting, but you just got the shits because you can't do it. Turns out you can't do it because you're not Elantrian. But props for trying.
Not a possibility that occurs to anyone, which maybe is fair because no one's ever been a fake Elantrian before that they know of, at least. So it was kind of funny that everyone's like, oh yeah, I guess you're just not doing them right. But I like what you said about him not telling her, because in the last episode especially, I was one of the biggest proponents of just tell her, dude. Like seriously, just tell her. What are you doing? But I agree that like the reason that he gives here is it's kind of like, okay, no, I kind of see where you're coming from now. And there's a bit in the annotations where Brandon's like, so why is Reod keeping his identity a secret? I think his explanation here is earnest, and he wants to get to know her without the truth of his identity throwing a crimp into their relationship. He, of course, intends to tell her eventually. And at the risk of giving a spoiler, you needn't worry that this is going to turn into an I'm mad at you for lying to me plot, because those annoy me too. Chick flicks are famous for them. Oh, you're really a rich prince? Well, I hate you for pretending to be a pauper to win my love. So that's his opinion on what's going on here.
That's fair.
The reverse Aladdin.
Yeah. These chapters are all right. I don't know if it's like the Hrathen stuff or what, but it's not making a whole lot of sense to me, some of the decisions and motivations that are happening. I did appreciate what Jamie said about not telling, why Raiden's, not telling her that who he is. But in the end, it's like, come on, bro. You can sense that there's something going on between you even now, I would think. And surely you could work together better if she knew who you were. But either way, she's obviously hooked on the spirit of it all. So she's, I mean, because she just keeps talking about how she's dying to get back in there. So she obviously is already ready to help him, even without knowing that he's Hrathen. So the Hrathen stuff, I just thought, I don't know, I wish it was just a little better planned out. And what I mean by that is, like, he's really shocked by this Telri turn, and I just feel like I wish maybe the character had thought out a little bit more each aspect, because until recently it felt like he had, and then as soon as he goes into Elantris, I almost feel like he's just flying by the seat of his pants. And that may be by design, because he's even saying, like, I've got the logic stuff down, I need to be more passionate about what I'm doing. So I get that to an extent, but at the same time, I feel like it's leaving a little bit to be desired on his part, on really making his plan succeed. So, and then I'm completely annoyed with Eventeo for his decision, because it's like it's Elend in the second book all over again. Well, I promised that I would do this, so even though it's not good for my country, I'm gonna do it. And he's making, like, he's making the rationalization that's like, well, I would be the only kingdom standing against him, so I guess it probably is good for the country that I'm doing this. But at the same time, it's like, just because you made the promise, it's like the Gjorn cheated and lied to you. That means you don't have to keep your promise. Like, it's not noble. It's just moronic. And it just reminds me of, like, the Ellen stuff in the second book. It's just like, okay, come on, dude. Really? You're just going to be like, well, I made a promise. So,
I guess
not
he doesn't
super,
know that Hrathen cheated him, though.
Oh yeah, he totally does, because his daughter talked to him and said, like, yeah, no, the Gjorn lied. He didn't heal me. There's no way he healed. So he totally knows that. And because she's trying to convince him not to convert, because the Gjorn didn't actually do anything. So I feel like he totally knows, but he's still going with it. So yeah, I just don't. I'm not super thrilled with that, and so I'm more interested to know going forward what's going to happen with Hrathen and Sereni, because all the Hrathen stuff and the Teod stuff, I'm just like, I don't even care what happens to Telri at this point. Even if he won and the book was over, I'd be like, whatever.
Burn? I don't know. No, okay. All right, fair enough. Yeah, I agree to some extent about Eventeo, but honestly, at this point in the book, I feel like he's looking for an excuse to because he knows that they're not going to win a fight against the Fjorden Empire or whatever. Probably even with Erelon on their side, they wouldn't win this fight. And so I feel like since the beginning of the book, almost, he's been looking for an excuse that can let him give in and not, like, lose face. And I feel like this is his moment where he's like, okay, here we go. Here's my excuse to basically surrender.
I mean, if that's the case, I feel like, because he almost makes it sound like, well, because I am noble and true to my word, I'm gonna go along with this. But really, then, if that's the case, then it's what he's doing is actually underhanded. It's like, well, I'm a coward and a weakling, and I can't survive. I can't beat them, so just forget it.
Maybe he's really hoping that if they convert, his wife will stop forcing him to eat Hragish weed soup. It's like, no. Fjordal don't eat that.
It's against my new religion. I'm sorry.
I only drink the blood of my enemies. That's it.
On the occasional strawberry yoo-hoo.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
Pina colada.
Okay, let's get into these 7 chapters. Of course, this first one, like, there's not a lot that happens in this first one. Dilloff is mad at Hrathen. Like, it starts out with Hrathen being like, yep, I'm awesome. I'm back and everyone loves me and Dilloff sucks. And it's basically, the chapter's like a conversation where Dilloff is like, but we're still going to kill the Elantrians, right? And Hrathen's like, we got more important things to worry about than Elantris right now. Elantris has served its purpose. And Dilloff's like, no, but I hate Elantris so much. We have to kill them. And he's like, yeah, we'll get to it eventually. Just shut up. And that's like the entire chapter.
Yeah, I think this is an issue I'm sort of having with these books. Hrathen's chapters, like, often they'll seem like to adhere to this triad system. It's like he throws in a Hrathen chapter, when there's really not a lot going on, and this feels like
Yep.
it could easily be part of another chapter elsewhere,
Agreed.
like one of his later chapters. And it's like it just seems, oh yeah, like so this chapter, Hrathen is introspective again, or in this chapter, Hrathen has a conversation with Dilaf, and that's it. I'm just like, yeah, look, I feel like it's not filler because this all needs to be here, but I feel like it's just you're trying to stick to the 3-chapter system, and like a lot of Hrathen's chapters just don't have as much substance to them.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, and yeah, like it feels like a lot of the time Hrathen is just basically waiting for other stuff to happen so that he can be important in the chapter system again. So yeah, I don't know, just this chapter really stuck out to me. It's like, really, this couldn't have been part of another chapter somewhere else.
It's almost don't forget these guys are here doing their thing while this is all happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, cause yeah, I mean, the action right now is in Elantris. That's where the interesting story is going on. So you're absolutely right. It's like, oh, by the way, these guys are still here doing their thing. It's smooth
Like-
sailing for the moment for Hrathen.
It's like in 24, where it's just like, don't forget the daughter's here. She's trapped by mountain lions or something, but she's still here.
I never watched 24, so I'll take your
No,
word
me
for
either.
I think that was the thing.
it. The mountain lions, or just
No, there was
Yeah.
there was like a whole subplot in, like, I think it was the first season. I don't know. I only watched bits and pieces when I was younger.
I feel like every episode of 24 was like, we have your daughter. It was like Taken, but on TV, like all the time.
Yeah.
Because wasn't the premise of it like there was 24 episodes and each episode was an hour?
yeah, and it's all
Yeah.
real time.
Yep.
Yeah.
hmm
So like imagine that you have to drive 2 hours to get somewhere.
Yep. You're in a car for 2
Boring
episodes.
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume the action had to go a little faster than that for, ratings and such.
Hmm.
No one ever had to drive anywhere on this show.
I've taken them, but I'm within a 15-minute radius.
Just catch the subway. It's actually just 2 stops. It's fine. Okay. The second chapter is a little more stuff going on. Galadon has finally managed to drag Reod away from his new buddy Serene to get him up to. If you'll recall, in their last chapter, they found a way up to the top of the wall, and now I guess it's a couple days later, and Galadon has been trying to get Rowden to go up to the top of the wall with him. He's like, dude, this was your idea. We found the way. Come on. And they managed to kind of to break their way out because it's boarded up at the top with, they point out, the very axe that Ton had almost used to topple the building. And there's a note in the annotations where Brandon's like, so in the original draft, I had them chopping through this with sail and sword. But then I remembered that I'd established there was an axe in Elantris. So I used that here.
And it's like, all right, cool little note. It's like, but is anyone really going to be like, oh, where'd they find an axe? And it's like, we've established there are things lying around in Elantris. So like, it's okay.
Yeah,
Like-
it's like Left 4 Dead, where you're just finding these random things laying around.
Yeah.
They're, hey, this is useful. All right.
Well, I think at one point they did like mention how you couldn't find many like weapons around. You
Mhm.
had to either like make your own or get extremely lucky. So I mean, I did actually appreciate that because I'm not like, hey, where did they get that axe? Did they make it? It's actually saying like, oh no, this is the one we from earlier.
I like the note. I think that's really cool. But it's like, it has been established that some of the people in Elantris do have tools and weapons and stuff like that. So it could have gotten away with it without having the note. Like, I don't dislike the note, but maybe it's just the wording. It's like the very axe that Tarn nearly used to break down the building. It's like, you could have just said from Tarn's old axe, but hey.
I feel like he wrote it that way because it was, like I said, he's like, oh wait, there's an axe. Okay, I'm gonna put that in here. And so he was like very proud of himself for remembering.
The
so
very
excited.
axe. Remember, guys? Hey, do you remember that time that he had an axe?
Yeah.
It's the same axe. It's actually
Got
like
his initials on it and everything.
yeah, it's actually like a super secret relic. It's like indestructible. It's like the Elder Wand of Axes.
So I mentioned at one point in the past that there was this antagonist that got cut entirely from the book, and since you guys have the 10th anniversary editions, you can read the deleted scenes at the end, which include this guy. But there's a guy that he calls the Mad Prince, who was like Raoden's crazy brother, and in the book, in that original version of the book, this is the section where he kind of starts to come into play. When they go up to the top of the wall, they see an army outside the city, and they're like, "Who's that? Like, where's this army come from? Are like the Fjordans attacking, or what's going on?" And that's what leads them to go back to Serene and be like, you have to tell us what's going on the outside. There's a freaking army outside. In the actual book, this version, they get up there and they're like, where? And they notice the Elantrian guard is over at Telri's house, basically. And they're like, oh, geez, what's going on?
They went from there is an army to there is no army.
Yeah, it's an opposite problem. But while they're up there, Galadon is ragging on Rowden for all the time he's spending with Serene. And he's like, well, she is my wife. And Galadon's like, well, yeah, do you ever intend to inform her of that fact?
It's a real, like, get your phone app out, like the whip crack noise. He's just like, you spend all your time with that girl.
But I love it every time now. It makes me think of Joe's like sarcastic remarks. But apparently Duladel is known for their romances and melodrama and forbidden love.
At the end, it turns out Galadon's been writing a play about everything that happens, and he includes this little...
Become a famous playwright.
The book is actually written by...
Oh,
Galadon.
yeah. That explains everything. So, yes, they notice that the Elantris guard is missing, and they're camped out around Duke Telri's mansion. And Galadon's like, maybe he's under arrest? And it's like, okay, something is wrong here. And so they have to go back and see Serene, who has not been wanting to talk about the outside world, apparently. And Rowden's been trying not to force her, but this is kind of a big deal. So let's see. So they get down there. She's reading her book. I mean, there's several notes in here. It's like her skin isn't like turning as like white or whatever as Elantrian skin normally does after a few days. She also says her injuries don't keep hurting. She can't draw any aeons no matter how hard she tries and how perfectly she does it. And it's just like, well, I guess that's weird. Whatever. But she is reading Sayor's Encyclopedia of Political Myths. And she's found this famous poem in its original version that totally debunks modern feudal rhetoric and manipulation.
I love it. This is a very like Hermione Granger moment. It's like, I took it out for a bit of light.
Right? Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, he says in the annotations, he's like, so originally there were about 2 pages of poetry from Wyrn the King included in here. I think every prose writer goes through a stage where he thinks for some reason that he has a talent for poetry. It's doubly bad in fantasy, where we've all read Tolkien and feel like adding poems and songs to our stories is a great idea. And the thing is, most of us aren't very good at it, and Wyrn the King was a narrative, alliterative poem patterned after Beowulf, and it was terrible. So he goes on to say, actually, I wrote the poem as a college assignment. I wiggled out of doing something resource-oriented by somehow convincing my teacher I deserved to do a creative project instead. When I finished, I felt a little bit obliged to stick it in my current book, as I told my teacher I would. Sorry, Dr. Thursby, it didn't make the cut. So yeah, be glad that we don't have to read feudal Beowulf like 2 pages worth in here. That's apparently really bad. But apparently the feudal empire, the Shu-Derethi leads have tried to rewrite history to make it so Jadeth. Yeah, we were always Derethi, even before that was even a thing that existed. And I guess the name Jadeth was originally a relatively unimportant god who cared for rocks underneath the earth, which I guess fits with what they've said about Jadeth. He's under the earth and stuff, so.
He's just a dude with the world's biggest pet rock collection.
But so Rowden's like, okay, I don't really care about that right now. There's kind of a big deal going on. What's up with the city guard guarding Telri? And so finally she agrees to talk about what's going on outside. And she's like, okay, so it all started when I dethroned King Iadon. And of course, that's why he killed himself. And oh, wow.
Right. I was just like, the fuck?
That's how you drop it on his kid. I mean, she doesn't know this is his son, but jeez.
Yeah.
But one other interesting note about the Mad Prince story is that apparently in the original version, as when they explain to Serene that there's this army out there, she becomes convinced that it's Prince Rowden leading the army, and that instead of like being imprisoned by the king, he ran off to get an army together to overthrow his father. And so they end up in this weird kind of thing where she feels like this responsibility towards, she's supposed to marry Rowden, and she has this picture in her head of like the Rowden that she's dreamed, her husband is going to be. And at the same time, she likes Spirit. And when she has to leave Elantris here in a bit, there's like a moment where she's having to make a choice between the Rowden in her imagination, who she thinks is waiting out there, and Spirit, who she has come to like. And when she's like, I don't want to leave, I'm going to stay here, that's like this moment where she chooses Spirit over this imaginary perfect Rowden in her brain. And it was like much more dramatic in that way.
Dramatic, yes. Does it make any sense? No.
But yeah, he says that's one of the things he misses most about having to cut the Mad Prince stuff. Although if you actually, I'm not going to go into all the details, but if you do read the deleted scenes at some point, this guy's pretty funny.
Does he have a
Yeah.
name?
His name is Eton, I think. Eton.
That's even more like Zane vibes, right? Because like he basically is like, oh, I have to pick between Zane and Ellen. What am I gonna do? And,
I guess, yeah, a little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, there's like a whole scene where he like, well, no, I'm not, I said I wouldn't get into it. Let's not get into it. But anyway, so Serene is going through and explaining to Spirit everything that's basically happened since she arrived. And it takes her a minute to realize that Spirit is taking this news of the king kind of harshly. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. That was kind of blunt, huh? He's like, Idon's dead? And he's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, he got tied up in the Jeskari mysteries, and it was a whole thing. And he's like, geez, I always thought of him as a fool, but how far did his involvement go? And she's like, yeah, he was sacrificing his cooks and maids. And he says, I'm sorry. And she says, it's all right, which it's really not. I don't, that's a weird response. And so Spirit is around and here is gradually finding out about, it's like, oh yeah, Telri is now richer than Royal, and he's a Drethi sympathizer, which has made him popular. And Spirit's like, holy crap, how much? It hadn't even been 2 months. How much has changed in this country? But he claims to have been here for a year. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, this is the point where I thought she might start putting the threads together that he's not who he says he is. Because he says, oh, I've been in here for a year. But it's like you're getting really caught up on very much more recent events that you wouldn't actually know about unless there are rumors coming in from the outside, which I guess there could be from new people who get thrown in. But yeah, he's very suspicious of details of events that by rights he wouldn't have known about if he'd been tossed into Elantris before them. So I thought she might start to just twig a bit. It's like, you haven't been here as long as you say, and then might start to put things together.
I think that she might have for sure, except like Brandon makes it a point to say that tracked with what she had heard other people say about spirits. So like other people had already kind of confirmed to like basically by asking him, she was confirming what other people were already saying about him.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, being caught up on most recent events, I guess the most dramatic stuff has happened recently. And we're still talking about Serena only really being in the city for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, well, everything is pretty recent that she knows about anyway.
Yeah,
that's true.
I guess I was just thinking mainly of little things like he knows which of the nobles are richer than the others. And like that's not exactly common news. Like that's probably something a little bit more less people would actually know that.
Well, I don't know
100%.
Because who is richer determines how high you are in the nobility, right? So that may actually be something everybody knows.
I guess.
And I mean, in terms of how long New Elantris has been around, so she's heard that Spirit's been in there for a year, but people are starting to talk to each other now. So who's to say someone didn't get thrown in 6 weeks ago and update him already?
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, he's probably chatted with Marishi. Marishi came in actually only the day after him. So, but Marishi doesn't know that, right? So,
I mean, he's just the jeweler,
the everythinger. He's the guy who makes everything.
Well, he's now he's the MacGyver, but before he was the jeweler.
Yeah, the jeweler turned artisan MacGyver.
But she's impressed by Spirit's knowledge of the nobility. She's like, he knows these guys better than I do in some respects. So like that's impressive. That's where I feel like she should be getting suspicious. Like, how does he know Royal so well if he was like a minor? And like his excuse is, oh, well, in Erelon, you have to know about all the noblemen, right? But that's a little suspicious.
Then he made a comment about something like, oh, you know, I bet the old guy was, you know, pretty happy to make that proposal or something.
Yeah. And
it's like, that's a very, I know this person sort of comment, not just I know their place. Yeah. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's a little bit comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's something like if you're far enough away from him, it's like a comment you might make about the president or prime minister, someone you've heard of and is famous and that you don't actually know. You're like, oh yeah, I bet that old like geezer loved that. Yeah. But it's actually worse even than you were saying, because he says that. He's like, that familiar, like, oh, I bet he loved that. And Serene's like, excuse me, I found him to be a perfect gentleman. And Spirit's like, I thought you had a better judge of character than that. Like, that's him saying, oh, I know him way better than you do, apparently. So.
Yeah. And then straight after that, it's like, well, he didn't suggest it, Shuden did. And he goes, oh, yeah, that sounds like something Shuden would say. It's like, so he clearly knows both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Tarina, because then she's like, oh, yeah, him and Han's daughter are growing real close. And he's like, Shuden and Tarina? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wait a second. You were going to marry Royal? I thought you were already married. It took him a minute to circle back to that.
Yeah.
And then how hurt he was when she's like, but he's dead.
Yeah. She's
Why
like,
should it was a political marriage anyway.
Yeah. She's like, I didn't meet him. I don't owe him anything. And he's very hurt by this, which, once again, this should make you kind of suspicious. But
I just see Galadon pissing himself in the corner.
Well, like Galadon, he does try to appeal to Galadon at one point, and Galadon's just like, I'm staying the fuck out of this, guys.
well, yeah, that's the right call, clearly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because she catches him out on the thing, because he's like, but your wedding contract says you can't marry again. And she's like, wait a second. Yeah, how'd you know that? And he's like, you explained it a minute ago. And she says, I did not. He's like, yeah, sure you did, right, Galadon? And Galadon's like, don't look at me, dude. I'm not doing this. And she's like, look, I'm a political creature. I did what was best for Teod, and that was the same reason I was going to marry Royal. And then I was in the throne room at my wedding, and I turned into an Elantrian. And they're like, really? In the middle of your wedding? Jeez, that's messed up. And then she reveals, because Spirit's like, man, if only we could communicate with the outside. And she's like, oh, well, I might have a way to do that. And she calls Aish out, who's apparently hiding over in the corner of the library. Like, he's just like over in the dark.
Yeah, and it's at this point that I'm like, okay. You see this, right? You see that she has an Aeon that's hanging out with her. And then, like, I feel like Brandon's clumsily being like, well, you know, he doesn't know that it's her Aeon. But I'm like, come on. Why would this random Aeon just walk around doing this girl's bidding? That makes no sense. So I was just like, this is ridiculous. How are they not understanding that this is wrong?
Yeah, I keep thinking that, like, you should be recognizing that something messed up is going on here. But then I have to tell myself, it's like, but this has never happened before. Not once in the entire 10 years has someone become an Elantrian but not really been an Elantrian, except for Hrathen, of course, but they don't know that. So it's just like, it's like if your dog turned into a human and you're like, how are you not suspicious that this human's really a dog when he's like, hey, do you have any dog food? Shouldn't it be obvious at that point? And it's like, well, no, because dogs don't turn into humans. It's not a thing that can happen. So I don't know. I don't think I'd be suspicious if a guy was like, I might think it was weird if a guy I just met was like, hey, do you have any dog food? But I wouldn't think, wait, is this guy secretly a dog?
Maybe he has a secret dog.
See, I think that's where you and I differ. I'd be like, this dude's asking for dog food. Is he a dog? What? What's happening?
This sounds like a Jedi poet thing.
Yeah. And if you can believe it, he got down on all fours and barked. It was crazy. And then I stopped smoking weed and I realized that's not what was happening. Now that's what a Jedi poet would say. Well, never mind. He would never stop smoking.
No, I was about to say, that's ridiculous. He would not stop.
Yeah, he would never stop.
And he would just go, that weird laugh he has.
Yeah, it is a good laugh.
Yeah.
So I love that Serene says, you're not angry at me for hiding him. And Ron's like, look, I can tell you're just the kind of person who needs to have secrets, even just for the sake of having secrets. So I expected this, basically. Maybe not this, but, you know, these two go together really well, clearly. So they send Aish out. It's like, come back and tell us when Telri becomes king. And then they sit around waiting for that to happen, I guess. Meanwhile, Galadon goes over and sits down and falls asleep in a chair, which is another thing that doulas are known for. They're so relaxed they can just fall asleep in any position at any time.
What aren't the doulas known for at this point?
Right? Yeah.
The doulas are known for wrestling porcupine fish or something. I don't know. Like, try and prove that they aren't.
I think they're not known for one thing that our friend Galadon does, which is like be pessimistic. They're not known to be
pessimism. Right.
Yeah. No, that dude surely is a pessimist.
And they sit around till Aish comes back, and he says, yep, Telri is king, and that's the end of the chapter. We cut back to Hrathen, who has found the hole that they made to get up to the top of the wall, because he's on top of the wall. I guess that should have been obvious. And he sees like the slime tracks have led up out of the stairwell, and he's like, oh, the rats are gnawing at their cage. He's very, I don't know, it's kind of mean.
Kind of a villain, so.
Well, yeah, I just mean, like, he usually doesn't, like, look down on Elantrians that much. He's just like, the rodents are seeking to escape their nest.
Yeah, he's really gone, like, full-blown Darth Sidious here. He's like, these rodents in their nests.
But this is the closest we get to, like, seeing what happens when Telrii becomes king. And apparently he's just having big parties and lavishing in the attention of everyone on their new ruler. And he's like, yeah, I know that I'm going to go see him tomorrow, and he's going to want more money, but, you know, whatever. We don't care about money. And he's like, look, this guy won't ever be a true believer, but if we convert the country, his people will be believers. His children will grow up being true believers. It just takes, it takes this sacrifice of having this false believer take the lead.
Excelsior! Yeah, true believers.
It's worth it in the long run, is Hrathen's take here.
Sure.
But he's also up here trying to catch a glimpse of Serene, because he's actually kind of worried about her. And maybe you think it's because he cares, but we find out.
Alive.
Yeah, we find out in a minute. It's because he needs her alive.
Which he got super lucky that Aventio decided to explore this conversation with him. I mean, yeah, maybe he was counting on it, but I think it was still a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't even know he has a Seon. Like, Aventeo has to send a Seon to find him. So it really is kind of a long shot, it seems like.
And it's not even like just a long shot on the basis that Aventio might contact him. Aventio also has to contact him within the time limit that the potion allows. So
also, does he just have a shit ton of Seons just like hanging out? Because he's obviously using his own Seon to communicate with that Seon. Mm-hmm. So like, how many Seons does this guy have?
Maybe this one like is the one that works for his spy or something.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, the Seon comes up and he's like, I've come on behalf of my master, King Eventeo of Teod. He wishes to speak with you. And Hrathen smiles. He's like, yep, I've been wondering how long this was going to take. All right. And Eventeo is like, I want my daughter. What do you want in exchange? And Hrathen has to play coy. He's like, well, I mean, I don't have any power, but Lord Jadeth, he can heal anything. And the king's like, yeah, okay. What does Jadeth want to heal my daughter? Well, the faithless receive no miracles, your majesty. Hrathen's thinking, obviously, this guy knew what I would want. He must love his daughter very much. And the king agrees, if my daughter returns safely, I will convert. I knew it was coming anyway. I will see if I can encourage Lord Jadeth to return your princess, your majesty. This guy.
Yo, God, get off your ass and fix this lady.
Flanders to God, get off your cloud and save my Todd.
Oakley dokley.
So, yep, he's like, Hrathen's just like practically jumping for joy after this call. Like, yes, buy one, get one free nation conversion.
Basically.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just can't get over the fact that it's like, yeah, he like, God forbid Aventio was like stuck in bed with a migraine for a few days or something, and then by the time it passed, like Serene had already gotten out. Like, there's a lot of luck in this.
Yeah, he makes it sound like it's all part of his grand plan, but there was definitely a lot of coincidence or luck or whatever you want to call it in here.
It's like it gets to day 4 and Hrathen's like, shit, okay. Opens up the box with this Seon in and it's like, hey, I need you to call Aventio for me. hey, Aventio, I got a limited time offer for you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Who knows? Although I almost feel like this, like he's been working on Erelon this whole time. It's like Teod is just like, I feel like a lucky coincidence that he can line that up at the same time.
Yeah.
So if he hadn't gotten it, maybe he wouldn't feel like that bad because he thinks he's getting Erelon like, and that's what he came for.
Yeah, Teod wasn't his job. It's just a bonus.
So yeah, we cut back to Reod, who is trying to wrap his brain around the fact that his dad is dead. He's like, I know Erelon's going to be better off without King Idon, but that was my dad, man.
Poor guy.
His dad, like, just like it's like he just missed it too. He doesn't get to say goodbye or anything. It was just a couple weeks ago, and he's only been here like 6 weeks or whatever. So So he's hurting, and he's using Serene and the Aeons as ways to distract himself from the pain of loss. New Elantris practically runs himself. New Elantris practically runs itself, so he can hang out in the library talking to Serene, drawing Aeons. Serene is upset because all the books seem to be about the old Empire, not the new Empire, which, oh man.
The old Empire was presumably just all about rock gardening.
And Galadon comes in, and Ron's like, yeah, is he still up there? Kolo, the dueler, replied, still screaming at his god. You mean praying? Whatever. You'd think a god would be able to hear him no matter how softly he spoke. I know, right? So
He's just turned into that dude from Skyrim who hangs out in Whiterun, like banging on about Talos to anyone who walks past.
sure, I never played Skyrim, so
Did you not? I thought you did.
I played like an hour of Skyrim.
Yeah. He couldn't he couldn't get into it. But
Same
enough.
thing happened with Mass Effect. I played like Mass Effect up until you get to the Citadel or whatever,
mhm.
and then there was just too much in the Citadel. I was like, there's like a billion things people to talk to, and I don't want to miss anything, but I don't want to spend an eternity here, so I
Yeah.
just couldn't do it.
It can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, okay, I get it. There's a lot of people to talk to.
Yeah, fair enough.
And really, I actually found that I enjoyed both of those games more after I played through like the main story the first time, and then I went back and knew like, okay, I know which people specifically I need to talk to make events move forward.
Yeah.
That's what I found more enjoyment in the game, because it's like it's more about experiencing it at that point than like hunting down every single thing, because like at that point it's like, okay, well I already know what I'm doing. And so then when there was like the occasional surprise, it was more fun because it was like, okay, this one surprised me, I didn't remember this, or oh, I didn't know that you could do this. So it became more palatable after the first playthrough.
Yeah, fair.
I didn't know that you could drive around with sewage trucks spraying houses down with sewage. This is awesome.
And that's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
But,
that's a different game. An awesome game.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
didn't know you could, make your knees buckle in front of in front of a car and get shot like 1,000,000 feet in the air.
Do that all the time. But no, Hrathen is praying to heal Elantris, or the Elantrians. They think they're like, we can't really hear him all that well. She's like, healing Elantris, that's a switch. And you got to remember, she's been like trying to go toe to toe with Hrathen this whole time, and now she's away for a few days, and it's like, wait, he's doing what? Like, I gotta figure out how to counter him again, even though I'm in here, so it doesn't really matter anymore. And then he notices her just staring at him, drawing his Aeon, and she's like, you keep drawing that same one for like an hour. Why? And he's like, it helps me think about Aeon Door itself. I understand most of the theory now, but I still can't figure out why it's blocked. And she says, maybe something's wrong with the land. He goes, what are you talking about? Well, you say that Aeons and the land are linked, though even I could have told you that. He's like, oh, really? So you know all about secret Elantrian magic, huh? She's like, no, but it did include I did learn about Aeons, and to begin every Aeon, you draw a picture of Erelon. I learned that as a kid. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, it's like what my teacher taught me. You draw the coast at the top, and then a curve to represent the mountains, and a dot right here for Lake Alono. And Galadon and Reod are like, what? Shocked. Like, it does. You're right. So I guess that somewhere along the line, some teacher figured this like little trick out to help you remember how to draw Aeons, and it hasn't made its way over here, or at least Reodin's teacher didn't use the same trick.
Yeah, it didn't. And for whatever reason, even though he lived part of his life in Elantris, Galadon was never told this.
I guess, Galadon may not have paid that much attention to drawing Aeons if he couldn't do it himself. And so they pick up a map, and they're comparing them, and they're like, wow, it's like exactly the same. They slant the same way and everything. And Round's like, okay, well, let's say that's right. What would be wrong then? It's not like the mountains have moved. The lake's still there. The coast is still there. And Serene's like, well, I don't know. You're the expert. I can't even get the first line to show up.
Aw.
And I just love that this is another extension of what we learned about Serene earlier, where if she isn't good at something right away, she gives up on it. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. That's not what we learned about her earlier. She gets annoyed when she's not good at something right away. And in this case, she let herself get distracted by something else. With her art, she was like, I'm going to keep doing it until I can art. One of these days, it'll work. But yes, she's used to being good at stuff on the first try. And right in the middle of this discussion, he turns and looks at her, and her skin is starting to turn back into normal human looking, and Galadon and Reod are both staring like, oh my god. And she's like, what? What did you do? Galadon asks, and Reod's like, nothing. I didn't. Something else healed her. And this is where he finally gets it. It's like, wait, she can't draw Aeon. She complained about being cold, and we don't ever get cold. She says her wounds don't hurt. He finally gets it. She was never actually an Elantrian. It takes the change back for him to connect the dots. And she's like, he's like dragging her to the courtyard, and she's like, I don't understand what's happening. And he tells her, it's like, no, you were never an Elantrian. This is a trick. The Bjorn used the same trick on himself, and now he used it on you. Somehow he can fake being an Elantrian. And he got you right in the middle of your wedding on purpose. That wasn't just some random, super embarrassing thing that happened. He did that to you. You should be pissed, really. And she's like, but I don't want to leave. And he's like, you can't stay in Elantris. No one wants to stay in Elantris. And he tries to act all hard. It's like, what, do you think we're going to feed somebody who's not one of us? And she's like, dude, I know that you're bullshitting me right now.
Yeah. She's like, don't act that way. You know, that's BS.
And I like, Hrathen has spotted them approaching, and so the gates are being thrown open. And so since he can't trick her, he kind of guilts her. He's like, look, we're going to run out of food in a few weeks, and the crops we're raising won't be done for months. So we're all going to starve unless someone on the outside can get us supplies. And she's like, damn you. Fine. And then she gives him a Douglas MacArthur and is like, I will return.
Considering they were inside,
Mhm.
'cause I'm sure they were inside when she started changing back, they rushed to get her out really quickly.
Yep.
Was that just because it was they'd figured that there'd been a trick, so they wanted her out? Like, they could have taken a few minutes to really talk it through.
Right? Yeah, like he's practically dragging her, and they're on the way to the gate, and she's like, I don't understand. What are we doing? What's going on? Yeah, I don't know. He just seems really determined to get her out.
And also assuming that there was someone there ready to open the gates. I mean, we all know that Hrathen was there waiting because he was praying or shouting to his god. But yeah, it's like there's no way. I mean, they couldn't just open the gate themselves. Someone had to be on the other side.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess worst case scenario, they know how to get her up to the top of the wall, and then she can go back down the stairs on the other side. But yeah, they were heading towards the gate, so I guess maybe Rowden is just really wanting someone to do something about what's going on the outside, and he trusts her to do something about it. So it still seems like a big hurry for no particular reason.
Yeah. Also, wouldn't that have just pissed Hrathen off as well? It's like, oh, wait, she hasn't come out. Has she changed back? Oh my god, is she alive? Is she dead? Like, who knows?
That's true. Wait a couple days just to mess with him.
Yeah.
But we cut to Serene, and she's like, 5 days ago I went in here thinking my life was ruined, and now I don't want to leave, and it's a whole thing. And Hrathen's like, Jadeath has preserved you, princess. And she's like, shut up. I know what you did. And he's like, well, your father thinks that you owe me something. And she calls him a liar, and he's like, really? You think so? Go talk to your dad. See who's the liar. And he tells her, like, hey, you fought well, but you got to know when to stop. I've got TO'd already. Erlon's going to be mine. Don't be like the stone lark ever trying to dig a pit in the sand's wet beaches.
Yeah, between this and I think there was another when Reod and Galadon were on the walls, they were talking about ferns as another kind of bird. I'm just like, man, Joe's gonna have fun with these new types
new fake birds.
the new fake birds.
Yeah, oof. Come on. Fake birds, really?
But I love the next bit when Eondel shows up and just has a sword out at Hrathen's neck. And he's like, hey, you leave her alone. And Hrathen just like humiliates him. Like leans back, kicks the sword out of his hand, grabs it out of the air. He's like, Eondel is good, but Hrathen is way better, is what we learn here. Don't mess with the Bjorn. Time moves like a mountain serene. He's doing a lot of metaphors here, or similes. And Keen's there, and she's like, hey, gather our allies. We got to meet. And Keen's like, dude, that can wait. And she says, I've had a fine vacation, uncle, but there's work to be done. Perhaps when I'm finished, I can escape back to Elantris. Like, Eondel's like, well, she seems all right. And then we move to the funniest scene where we're in Keen's house, and he keeps bringing stuff to eat, and she just keeps eating.
Oh, and everyone in there is making jokes about how gigantic she is and filling her. I'm like, come on.
It's
Really?
mean.
Is
Yeah.
she that tall?
So it's like, she just got out of Plague City, guys. Cut her some slack.
Right?
Yeah, you guys go in there and see how hungry you get.
Royal's just sitting there staring in wonder. I've never seen a woman eat this much. And Lukel's like, she's a TO giantess. You can't compare her to ordinary women. It's just mean. And I like her response is, if I weren't so busy eating, I would respond to that. And then she keeps eating.
Always time to kick him under the table.
Just tell him his face is pink again. That'll teach him.
Yeah. Shut up, pig face.
Keen brings out like another dish and he's trying to explain how amazing this dish is. And he's like, you don't care, do you? Fine. And she's like, yeah, I understand, Uncle. You suffer for your art.
I mean, he gives it a fancy name. I was like, so it's pepper steak.
Well, it's boiled in something. It sounds like a let's see, semi-boiling meat and vegetables in a red sauce. Sounds kind of like a curry to me, maybe.
Well, he says it's boiling, not necessarily that it was boiled. Like, it could just be, like, very, very hot.
Yeah.
Isn't boiling like an absolute, though? Maybe semi-boiling.
Yeah,
That's an interesting point, yeah. And finally she's like, okay, no, I'm good. There wasn't a lot of food in Elantris to be had, and so it's been 5 days. I'm kind of hungry. And Lukel's like, I'm not surprised. Or I'm surprised there was any at all, rather. Elantrians like to eat. And Keen says, yeah, but they don't need to, so they can afford to stockpile. Once again, Keen's family, weirdly familiar with Elantrians.
Yeah.
But Serene is calling out, like, hey, does anyone remember exactly how long Hrathen was in Elantris? And Luke was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. She's like, I bet it was 5 days. Exactly the same amount of time I was in Elantris. What a coincidence. And Iandel shows up with Shuden, and Iandel has brought her a wig, which is not great. It's kind of short, especially for what she's used to, but it's better. He's like, all the other wigs I found felt like they were made of horsehair, so.
Which really, this is the most heartbreaking thing of this whole saga of her being a fake Elantrian is the hair. I mean, anyone who has long hair knows how utterly painful it is to grow that out. It's very sad. It makes me very sad. Just the thought of being bald and having to start again. Awful.
Yeah, and it was like all the way down to her middle back or something, I think it said at one point. So that's a long time.
Yep.
And they're like, oh yeah, your hair was probably still attached to your veil when we burned it. And they're like, wait, burned it? And they're like, oh yeah, it's a custom. When somebody gets thrown into Elantris, we burn all their shit. Everything? Yep.
So, question, why did no one torch Hrathen's stuff?
I guess he's not Aeroline, so they didn't follow the same customs. Although they did have it all thrown in a corner, so maybe they were going to.
Yeah.
But conveniently waited 5 days to do it?
Yeah.
I wonder if you can kill a Scion by throwing him in a fire.
Because I assume that custom probably comes from they don't want any of your stuff to have been affected by the Sheod as well.
They don't understand how it spreads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they still held to the custom of, they took him before the priests, cleaned him off, dressed him in the robe with the basket. They stuck to that tradition fine. So
that's true. But I mean, all his stuff was inside the Dorethi temple, chapel. So I don't know that the priests of Shu Korath are going to go in there and start collecting his stuff.
I'll just tell Dill after having a bonfire. He loves burning things.
That's true. Yep. But now that the crew's together, except Ahan, who has gone to talk to Telri on their behalf, she's like, okay, we're going to have to come up with a new plan, and it's going to have to be a bit more serious than our previous plans. And Royal's like, do we really want to do that? I mean, do we want to, overthrow the government by force? And Serene's like, it's going to be our only option if we don't want to become, feudal subjects, basically. And so they kind of agree that they're going to start. Well, I guess they don't. He says, let's sleep on it, Serene. And she goes, yeah, okay. And they also decide there's no reason to continue with their betrothal. They are not going to take the throne through politics at this point. It's going to be through force. And Serene's like, oh, man, 3 engagements and no weddings. This is a bad track record for me. But she does get a room at her Uncle Keen's house. He says that she can stay with them, so that's good. And then we cut to the end of her conversation with her father. We don't even see it. We see the aftermath, which is almost more dramatic, where she's, really torn up by what's just happened. And her father is going to convert after all, even though she raved and explained and cajoled him to not go through with it. He'd implied that she should lead Erlon to do the same, but she could tell that he was proud when she refused. And the chapter ends with her thinking, Erlon had once been a nation populated by gods. Now it would serve as the final haven for Domi himself. And then we move into our last chapter, which is back to Hrathen again. We're ending on the end of an actual triad, as Joe pointed out last time. Hrathen has gone to see Telri, and he's being kept waiting. And he does not like that. Eventually, he's allowed in, and he's like, hey, it's time for you to live up to your end of this deal that we had. And Teller's like, what are you talking about? I didn't promise you shit.
Oh, what an asshole.
Right? He's like, but
Yeah, he's being a real prick, and like Hrathen could totally just like, especially because they've been left alone, he could totally like threaten him and stuff. But I guess that wouldn't work out very well.
I thought you were gonna say like Hrathen could totally just kick him in the face.
He could.
Yeah.
That's true.
just kill him.
He could be like, "Look here, you little prick.
Just
You're
yeah,
gonna
be like,
give me what I asked for, or I'm going to kill you."
I put you on the throne. I could put somebody else on the throne just as easy after I kill you and start over.
Yep.
But he's like, you're supposed to join Shu Dareth. That was the deal. He's like, I didn't make that deal with you. You offered me money, and I accepted your money, and you have my gratitude, as I said you would. That's just, oh gosh. He's like, no. I mean, I said I would be grateful, and I'm grateful for all the money you gave me. Thanks.
Probably should have spent some time establishing the definition of gratitude.
Yeah.
So, Hrathen, you should have drawn up a contract.
And he tries to threaten him a little bit. He's like, don't forget what happened to your predecessor. And Teller's like, you didn't even have anything to do with that. You were in Elantris when that happened.
If anything, Dilaf had more to do with that because at least Dilaf was there.
Right? But Tellery, eventually, he's like, okay, look, there is a price for me to convert. You just can't pay it. So I've already sent a letter to someone higher up in the church than you. He's like, wait, what? Tellery's like, yeah, you think I'm stupid? I know that, like, kings bow to Gjorns in the east. I'm not going to let anyone just come in and tell me what to do. No. I will become Drethi when I am Gjorn Tellery and not just King Tellery. And I've already sent a letter to Rin explaining this. So Viking Pope is going to get a letter. It's fine.
It's just like, it's very like, make me an all-powerful genie. and then Rin's like, yeah, but if I make you a Gjorn, you're not going to be king. You're going to do whatever the hell I tell you to do.
This is the part, like somebody mentioned, Hrathen seemed scared. And this is the part that scares him. It's like, this guy sent a letter to the Pope he made demands of the regent of all creation. And this is a guy that I was supposed to have control over as far as Viking Pope is concerned. I'm fucked. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah. He's like, when Wern receives this message, oh no, you are a foolish, foolish man. And then Tellery tells him to go, and he does. And that's the end of our section.
He just said, well, off to the Rose Barbarians with me. Dilaf, you're in charge.
This is all on you
Bye.
now, bro.
Yep.
Oh dear, that letter is going to get sent to Dakor. I'm out.
Oh, yeah. So yes, we're now 79% of the way through the book. So let us do some predicaments. Where do you guys think this is going?
Well, like I said, I think, after all the build-up of Dakor Monastery, and I was saying last time, like that's got to come into play somehow, I think Viking Pope is going to send a representative from there, or someone who's trained there, and that's going to be the final antagonist for the book. It's just like, okay, this person is here just to murder everyone, assume the throne, say, all right, Arelon, bow to me, or I will kill you all somehow. I don't know how that's going to go, but that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of predictions this week. It's just like, sorry, I'm a bit scattered this week. I thought I had something for Reod, but I've forgotten it. Never mind, move on.
Okay.
Okay, predicaments. So how many episodes have we got left? Is it 3 or 2?
I believe we have, let's see, in this book we will do 1, 2, 3 more episodes. And that's not counting, there's actually an episode where we're going to read like the Ars Arcanum section of the book and some other little stuff at the end. But for the main text of the book, it's 3 episodes.
Okay. So we've got 2 full episodes effectively, and then 1 episode that's got, I assume there's an epilogue.
The epilogue is at the end of the 3rd episode that we're doing. It's part of the overall. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
It'll be 3 episodes of text of the actual books. So.
Okay. So, all right. I'm thinking. So Tellery's basically just gone and signed his death warrant because I doubt that Wern's gonna tolerate that sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
So he won't be king for very long. I think that Hrathen's in trouble as well. I don't know what's going to happen to him potentially. It really depends on whether Wern comes himself or sends someone else. I reckon he'd be pretty pissed off. Also, I think it would be kind of cool to meet Wern.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm predicting that he will turn up rather than him sending someone. regarding Raoden and the Elantrians, I think they're going to figure out whatever's happened with the. I like the idea that it ties back to the geography of Arelon. Potentially, mountains don't move, but I don't know, maybe it's been an earthquake or a landslide or something that's disrupted the landscape there.
Oh, the big crack in the south.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was gonna be part of my predicaments. Was that when they started talking about the land, I actually went to go look at the map. And I'm like, there is a big hole in the southern part of the map. Maybe that's part of the problem.
Well, yeah, and if you guys remember that, what's his name? The guy who was part of their plan and then ran away.
Edan, yeah.
Yeah, his lands were on the edge of the chasm, I think they call it, and there were rains and his crop lands were all falling into the chasm, and so he wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, I'd forgotten about that completely. So there you go. They're going to figure that out somehow. They're going to manage to tweak the lines or something to draw the Aeons, because I don't think you can just fix the land, and that will free the door and heal the Elantrians, put them back to where they need to be. Whether that restores them to being, just regular people again, or whether that transforms them back into Elantrians of old, maybe I'd like to kind of see that happen, I think that maybe Royal will end up king after all, and then Raoden and Serene, they'll end up together. Maybe they're sort of head of Elantris, and they sort of go back to functioning as two different entities. I would like to meet Eventio as well. I don't know whether he'd come to Arelon, or I don't think the book's going to move to Teod now. We're not actually going to get there, but it would be cool if he turned up as well, and for him and Keen to have a bit of a reuniting moment. Ugh. Yeah. I would love to know what happened there. I think that's more my curiosity is. I really want to know what fell apart between them. So I would like to see that happen too. But
it would take a bit of a trip to actually get the book to Teod at this point. We'd have to get on a boat and spend days sailing. It seems unlikely, right?
Well, yeah, because I thought when he started talking about, oh, look, Arelon's done. It's in my pocket. I've got this. I was like, well, maybe we would go to Teod. But no, now that we're through these 7 chapters, there's not enough time to work all that out. I'm a bit disappointed that the Teod thing seems to be, he's like, yep, that's it. I'll convert when you give Serene back. I don't think they'll get far enough into bringing him into Shu-Dereth, so Teod ultimately will stay as it is. I don't think they'll actually make the conversion.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, they make the point that Hrathen's once he's done in Arelon, he's going to go over there and finalize the conversion. If things go poorly, if you're right, and Viking Pope himself rocks up here, Hrathen might not live to make it that far.
It's true.
Exactly.
He screwed up. Yeah. I like the prediction about Royal being king, because it's there's a guy that we wouldn't mind seeing be king, unless he turns out to be evil secretly, as Dak predicted.
Well, I was thinking about back to the amendment that Iden made, that everything would basically, once he died, everything would stay as it was. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine that Serene would want to take the throne, because once he died, I don't know whether in terms of it passing through the bloodline, because he was king, he hadn't, or no one had officially taken over being king since he died. So would that go to Raoden straight away, regardless of who tried to stand in, knowing that he was alive, or would it go to Serene because now she wasn't actually dead? Is she still entitled to the throne? I don't know if it would come back that way. I can't see Serene and Raoden wanting to rule now.
Yeah.
Maybe they would want to focus more on Elantris. So having someone else that they know and trust take over, I think would make sense. But yeah, when does the bloodline thing kick in? Because now Telri has been crowned king. Would it now go through his bloodline? Does he have a bloodline to pass it on to? And that's why they need some more evasive action, I guess, to take it back. You can't just get married and have a political takeover. It's got to be something a little bit more overt.
That's true. I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly which way it's going to go right now. So much is still in flux.
Yeah. Classic Sanderson.
Yeah. Okay, Joe.
So, I think I agree. I think Wern's going to show up. I think he's going to show up annoyed and with his sizable army, and he's going to be like, "All right, Hrathen, you gave it a shot, but it's playtime's over. I'm here to conquer, straight up. That's what's happening. Your little puppet king that you created, screw that guy. I'm going to execute him publicly, and Fjordel's going to take over this place. Like, this is ours. We're staking a claim. All these people work for us now." And yeah, I think I as soon as I read the part about the land being connected to the Aeons, I went back and looked at the map at the beginning of the book, and I was like, there is, and I had actually forgotten about the connection that they talk about, like that guy's farmland had sunk. I was like, there is this giant like scar thing in the land, like this cracked piece. It's like maybe that has something to do with it. So how that formed, I don't know. Also, how you fix that, like, I don't know if you would have to start drawing the Aeons differently, or if you would actually have to like somehow magically fix the land right there. I don't know how that would be accomplished, but I think that is the part of the key to unlocking the Aeon door power. So that'll be interesting if that ends up being correct. It'd be more interesting just to see how they figure out how to fix that. But I don't think, based on what we read in Secret History, and maybe I'm totally off base with this, but I don't think they'll be restored completely. I think that the people that have been taken by the Reod will continue to look the way they look. Maybe the ancient, maybe like the people that are currently in Elantris will always look that way, but then people who are become Elantrian after that will look differently. And
so it'll like fix it for them.
Yeah, it'll fix it for them, but not for people. Or maybe if they can't fix the land and it's just the drawing of the Aeons that's different, maybe that crack in the land will always, like, maybe that is the reason that they look all messed up, is because that actually has changed the way that the magic works. But the other interesting aspect to that is if it does fix people going forward, then a divide might come between the people who look perfect, or not perfect, but good, and the people that look like zombies. And maybe that would be like a divide culturally between them, and then like the cult, the people begin to split, like, basically create two factions: the old Elantrians and then the new Elantrians. New. So that's a possibility, maybe. That seems interesting. Yeah, I don't know about Reod and Serene staying together. My guess would be that if they did, I still think it would somehow be like he lives in Elantris, she lives in K. They're free to go between like the towns, but they don't stay together all the time. Like he leads the Elantrians and she leads the people outside. So like they rule together, but maybe they like for political stuff they like each live in a specific place, like she and Kay, he and Elantris. Because my guess, I mean, and I'm just guessing here, is that if fixing the land or fixing the Aeons doesn't make them look better, it probably also means that their bodies still won't be able to regenerate and like heal, and in that case they wouldn't be able to bear children. In which case, like, his Raoden's line ends because his body has already decayed too much. So that would be what I would guess would happen if their bodies can't be healed by healing whatever it is that's messing up the Aeon door now. And then, I don't know what Hrathen's place is going to be in this upcoming, like, at the end of the book. I'm a little confused about what could be happening with him. I almost think maybe, like, Warren's going to figure out what he did to kind of stir everything up, and then Warren's just like, okay, well, you lied and like besmirched the name of Jada, so you're dead. But I don't know if Viking Pope digs on that kind of stuff. And I think Crushed Throat's gonna appear, and like all these pirates are gonna come out of nowhere. That'd be sweet, right?
They just show up.
Yeah, he just shows up.
Maybe Crushed Throat
is Crushed Throat.
Maybe Crushed Throat retired to Decor, and now he's gonna show up again and be super badass.
Well, didn't we? What was our theory, Dak? That Crush Throat was. Didn't we have
It's
a theory?
Kane.
Yeah, it's Kane.
There's Keen. He's the chef pirate.
The
Crush
cook-
Yeah,
Throat.
the
Yeah.
smooth chef pirate guy.
Yeah.
That could totally be true. We did
They're
it as a joke.
the Pirates
but-
of the Kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay, so because everyone is having a little trouble remembering and this in the discussion, I went back and found the part where it talks about the chasm. It's all the way back in chapter 4 when Reod is remembering the fall of Elantris. And it's this part that Joe made fun of because it says, it had come with a tempest. That much even Reod remembered. And you were like, well, yeah, it was 10 years ago. Of course you remember it. You were like 12. It wasn't, 50 years ago. So it says, the earth itself had shattered, an enormous chasm appearing in the south, all of Erelon quaking. With the destruction, Elantris had lost its glory. They changed, became blah, blah, blah. So it was like...
Now
when
with the
the-
current knowledge we have, totally.
So what?
Yeah.
What idiot broke the country?
Yeah. I mean, I guess some kind of naturally occurring earthquake. Maybe there's some maybe somebody pushed the earth too far away and there's volcanoes now, or I don't know.
Oh, they did say Jadith. Isn't it Jadith lives below the
Yeah, he
earth
lives under the
and
ground.
deals with the
Yeah.
rocks?
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
So,
Jadith did it.
Jadith
No
did it.
way.
Jay just climbs out of the pit, just like, at last, I'm free.
Yeah, exactly. He's like all spidery and stuff.
Death is but a door, time is but a window.
When there is no more room in hell, Vegeta shall walk the other hell. What the hell?
Okay. We got no new emails this week, but we do have one new review that I wanted to read.
Word.
The title of the review is Honestly Made Me Laugh So Hard. Love it. 5 stars. Hey, y'all. I'm Naomi from Georgia. State, not country. Go Braves. I just started the Mistborn series, and I'm excited to explore the Cosmere. I love the podcast, and it's made me laugh out loud, which I don't do often. I'm planning on moving to Norway sometime soon, and it will be nice to have a piece of home in a new country. I'm currently behind. I just started reading Hero of Ages, and I'm on the last episode of Well of Ascension. Can't wait to catch up. Side note, just finished the last episode of Well of Ascension. Salty Joe is best Joe.
I couldn't agree more. And hey, way to go! Your team won the World Series, so that's awesome. Good for you.
You gotta give her a thing now.
I know. I put the brain in the robot. Leave me alone. Yeah. So again, I feel like Elantris doesn't have a good equivalent to a misting because all the magic is not working right now. So there's not like classes of Elantrians as far as I can tell. So we're just gonna go back to the basics, and you can join the misting crew. With that, I will say you are a seer.
Ooh, nice.
Nice.
That is mystic. Like the best that you could do is instead of like giving them magic names, you're just like, you're from Duladel, so you're known for romances, or you're from Fjorden and you're an evil empire.
Right. Well, I mean, who wants to be a Fjordle, really? Like, that doesn't sound good.
You're from Old Fjordle and you're a rock farmer.
Yeah. I don't want to be like, I don't want to label somebody as like, Viking Pope's right-hand man or something like that. Like, I'm not into that. I'm not going to call people Gjorns and Radnats and stuff. That's not cool.
Okay, so reminder to everybody, we're taking 2 weeks off after this, so there will not be new episodes for a couple of weeks. When we do come back, we are reading
Sorry.
5. Yeah, and it's me and Joe's fault. It's not Australians really this time at all.
No,
it's
it's more
all on
us.
us.
No, that last weekend is us.
Okay.
I mean, nah.
We all had a hand.
We all
Sure. We all failed equally, right?
We just
I
couldn't
wrote
line
the
up
damn.
our failure to one weekend. We had to separate it all.
I apologize.
It's more just the fact that like, we had the few weeks off and thought, oh, beauty, all right, we'll have those weeks off, we'll come back, and we're going to be really good. And we did not count on the fact that straight afterwards is Thanksgiving and Christmas lead up. So
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Failure. When
Sorry.
we come back, 5 chapters, 49 through 53. And that'll put us real close to this ending here. It's very exciting.
That's wonderful, my Artef.
So if you would like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and all those kind of places. I've been working today on uploading some of the Hero of Ages to YouTube for the YouTube fans out there. I've got the first 9 episodes up already, so I'm moving right along. There's only 20 some odd episodes in that book. But hey, progress. That's the important thing.
Yay.
So Music by Miracle of Sound. 5 chapters for the next episode. And like I said, we're gonna shoot for not taking more time off around Christmas, but who knows what's gonna happen. Maybe I'll even get a chance to do another Christmas special. Maybe we'll get those same guys back and we'll do Elantris pictures and be like, what do you think is happening here?
That would be funny.
We'll see. we'll see what happens. So thanks everyone, and wuzzing to the time of next. Colo.
My name's get up, get out in the city.